Look, before we get into this thing, we're going to be talking about some rumors. We're going to be talking about some kind of potential leaks. We're going to be talking about some history. So there may be some spoilers. Consider this your fair warning. Spoilers. Possibly. Probably. Potentially. Welcome back to another edition of Force Friday, where we talk about Star Wars theories, characters, concepts, comparisons, analyzations, collectibles, and more. And today we're going to talk about the Clone Wars Season 7, which is coming to Disney Plus very soon. And the reason why we're going to talk about it is because I'm super excited about it. More excited than I've been for a Star Wars content since The Last Jedi, I think. I love the Clone Wars animated series. It's in my top 5 animated series of all time. Really bummed that they never got to kind of properly conclude it, and I'm very anxious for the opportunity to really get the final installment of that story. So where do we begin? You know where. At the beginning. On July 19th, 2018, Lucasfilm announced at San Diego Comic-Con that the Clone Wars would return with 12 new episodes in a Season 7 to be released on Disney Plus. Confirmed to be the final season of the show, it will feature 3 arcs across 12 episodes. So we're getting 3 stories that hopefully tie in together in a broader sense, collectively made into 12 episodes. There's a number of returning voice actors to include, and before I get started, I should note, sometimes I mispronounce names on purpose because I kind of feel like it's a running gag here. Let's all get on board with that. It would make my life easier. Matt Lanter as Anakin Skywalker, Ashley Eckstein, or is it Steen? Stein is fine, Steen is mean. I can't remember what the thing is. As Ahsoka Tano, James Arnold Taylor as Obi-Wan Kenobi, D. Bradley Baker for the Clone Troopers, Tom Kane as the narrator and Yoda, Sam Witwer as Darth Maul, Catherine Tabor as Padme, and Matthew Wood as the battle droids. It is unknown if Count Dooku or General Grievous will appear in this season, but due to its closeness to Revenge of the Sith and neither of them being in the trailers, it seems highly unlikely. Additionally, Asajj Ventress also won't appear as her story was wrapped up in the novel Dark Disciple, which, as a side note, I haven't been crazy about a lot of the novels that have come out since the Disney buyout. A lot of them have seemed sort of inconsequential or just sort of like spinning wheels within the lore and mythos of Star Wars. Dark Disciple is an exception to that rule. It is a fantastic book focusing on the story of Asajj Ventress and Quinlan Vos. So check it out if you're interested. One of these arcs, the Bad Batch arc, was originally to be part of Season 6 and was released in animatic form online in 2015. If you guys haven't seen that, I highly suggest you check it out. The second arc will follow Ahsoka's life in the Coruscant underworld and lead into the series finale, the Siege of Mandalore. Another sort of rumored legend type Star Wars story that we, at least on this side, have always had hopes of finally getting. Now, with that information out of the way, let's take a step back real quick and have a little history lesson surrounding the Clone Wars. The Clone Wars was first aired in 2008 on Cartoon Network and was a rating smash for them. Lucas originally planned for the series to run for 4 or 5 years, but planned to produce at least 100 episodes regardless of rating. The series was canceled in 2013. The reasons for this have been debated for years. By season 5, the series was achieving low ratings and merchandise had dried up in sales. The series is also believed to have had an incredibly high budget for an animated show, which combined with its low viewership made continuing it a bad idea from a business point of view. Additionally, some believe Disney wanted a new show to introduce kids to Star Wars before their movies began, hence the creation of Star Wars Rebels. And I should say this, my understanding is that the show was so expensive and Lucasfilm was losing money hand over fist, but George Lucas, being the lovable lunatic that he is, didn't much care about the financial success and was willing to run it all into the ground for the sake of telling the story that he wanted to tell, which I think is very commendable, but also super irresponsible. But when you're a billionaire with all these dollars, who cares? So I guess at the end of the day, I wouldn't know anything about it. I get the little text messages on my phone for my bank statements, and sometimes before payday, my bank account's like $16.37. I'm like, well, looks like we're getting gas tomorrow. But anyway, whatever the reason, the final completed episodes were released on Netflix in early 2014 as The Lost Mission. The unproduced arcs were released as novels, comic books, and even already created animatics through a project called The Clone Wars Legacy. Now let's talk about some of what we know in regards to the story arc. The Bad Batch arc consists of 4 episodes called The Bad Batch, A Distant Echo, On the Wings of Kiridax, and Unfinished Business. It focuses on Captain Rex and Anakin Skywalker working with the Bad Batch Squad, or Clone Force 99, a squad of unorthodox super soldiers. The plot revolves around a mission to solve the mystery of a new separatist algorithm system, which allows the Separatists to predict the Republic's every move, and takes place on the shipyard planet of Anaxis, which appeared in Star Wars Rebels. The arc also sees the return of Admiral Trench, who last appeared briefly in Season 6. The arc was written by Brent Friedman, who wrote several episodes of Season 4 and 5, as well as episodes of Star Wars Rebels. The idea for the Bad Batch came directly from George Lucas. Here's some tidbits that we kind of know about it. At some undetermined point after the Clone Wars, Anaxis was destroyed by a cataclysmic event, and its remains formed an asteroid belt. The remains of the same Republic military base seen in the upcoming series are featured in Season 1 of Star Wars Rebels. Anaxis now serves as a link between the Clone Wars and its sequel series, Star Wars Rebels. The behind-the-scenes reason for this is that when the Clone Wars was canceled, the Bad Batch arc was already in development. To save time, Season 1 of Rebels reused several previously built sets for the then-canceled Season 7 of Clone Wars, and one of these sets was that base. Another major reused set was the Spire prison on the planet Stygian Prime. That might be one of the mispronounced ones, where the Grand Inquisitor lured the Jedi. This set was originally built for the planned Season 6 finale, Son of Dathomir, which was adapted into a Dark Horse comic. This is kind of following the sort of trajectory that Star Wars has been doing since the buyout of reusing things for the sake of saving money. I think it's a very smart idea. I think it's very clever and a super pragmatic approach to this. We see aliens being reused from Solo and Rogue One sitting within the cantina of The Mandalorian. We see reused concept designs being used across different films that they weren't previously used. There's just a lot of very clever tactical strategies being used to save money and keep things interesting. I like that. On the subject of the Bad Batch, though, at some point the oh, you don't know anything about flowers, attempted to create specialized clones who could serve as super soldiers, but the plan never quite worked, and 4 of these experimental clones formed Clone Force 99, nicknamed the Bad Batch. Their unique nature means these 4 clones differ greatly from their brothers and each other in voice, stature, appearance, and personality. They are led by Hunter, the stoic and strong leader, Wrecker, the hot-headed brute, Tech, the intellectual strategist, and Crosshair, the deadly master of close quarters combat. Think Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with no Michelangelo, but instead replaced with Bullseye from Daredevil. I don't know. First thing that came to mind. It might not be entirely accurate. The Bad Batch do not report to any general and instead function as an independent commando unit traveling in their own shuttle, the Havoc Marauder. They named themselves after 99, a genetically deformed maintenance clone who appeared in Season 3 and died during the Battle of Kamino. Bad Batch were due to appear in an unproduced arc revolving around Yoda on Kashyyyk. So a lot of good stuff there, a lot of clone-centric stuff there. The clones have a huge fan base, so I think this will satisfy a lot of their desires. The second set of episodes focus on Ahsoka's life outside the Jedi Temple and has been nicknamed the Ahsoka Walkabout arc by fans. This is the one that I'm most looking forward to. Precise plot details are largely unknown. We know it will involve Ahsoka becoming involved with 2 sisters, Rafa and Trace Martez, who live on level 1313, the same level originally to be featured in the canceled video game. It will in some way involve the Pikes, a series original creation who recently appeared in live action in the Solo film, and involve a trip to their homeworld of Obadiah. A version of this arc, specifically Ahsoka's adapting to life outside the temple and her becoming involved with 2 siblings, was planned for Season 6, but it appears this arc has been rewritten to incorporate elements from the planned Ahsoka stories. We also know from the Celebration trailer that it now serves as a direct lead into the Siege of Mandalore, as we see a cloaked Mandalorian, possibly Bo-Katan, in that trailer. There's a lot of questions surrounding Ahsoka's life during this period and sort of where she ends up and how she ends up and where it leads her in terms of character development to the point that we finally see in Rebels. I'm hoping that this gives us some sort of an idea or at least begins us on that path. It may be covered in more detail in the Ahsoka novel, but I haven't gotten around to reading that yet. Bear with me. The third and final arc of the series is the Siege of Mandalore. Back at Celebration 2015, Dave Filoni hosted a Clone Wars Untold panel which revealed the plans for the series, including this arc. While many of the precise details are unknown, the general story of the arc is already out and online. mind. We know it begins directly before Revenge of the Sith, with Anakin and Ahsoka briefly reuniting before he rushes off to rescue the Chancellor, and runs concurrently to the movie, ending around the same time or slightly after. As seen in the trailer, Captain Rex and other clones from the 501st paint their helmets to match Ahsoka's facial designs, dubbing themselves the 332nd. We also know the arc will involve Order 66. The Siege of Mandalore was first mentioned in Star Wars Rebels' second season, when Captain Rex says, "Ahsoka Tano, I fought by her side from the Battle of Christophsis to the Siege of Mandalore." Maul taunts Ahsoka about their last encounter on Mandalore several times in the Season 2 finale, Twilight of the Apprentice. Additionally, the book Ahsoka by E.K. Johnson revealed several details about the siege, although intentionally left many blank at the request of Lucasfilm. I am head over heels in love with the idea of this series running at the same time as Revenge of the Sith, and getting the possibility of seeing Order 66 from a sort of boots on the ground level from the Jedi perspective. Intimate. Whereas in Revenge of the Sith, the film, is kind of brushed over in a montage sequence that's beautifully done. I love the chance or the opportunity to really get into the nitty gritty of that and seeing it. We get a little bit of it, at least psychologically, in Jedi Fallen Order, the last most recently released video game. I would love for more of that stuff, especially with characters that we've already become grown and attached to. We get some clues of this running concurrently in the trailers, with seeing Anakin and a pregnant Padme together, as well as some of the scenes completely redone in animated form in the trailer, such as Mace Windu saying, "I sense a plot to overthrow the Jedi." But a lot of this connective tissue is not only going to serve directly from 2 to 3, which is what the Clone Wars has pretty much done overall, it's also serving as connective tissue between the prequels and Rebels, which I think is almost equally as important at this point. The reasons for Rebels incorporating so many dangling elements from Clone Wars was an attempt to wrap up that series, as at that time, Clone Wars was believed to be dead and gone. Luckily, many of the details mentioned in Rebels were vague enough for a season of Clone Wars to come in and really securely tie up those loose ends. We know that the arc will end with Rex and Ahsoka parting ways, and Maul going into hiding, with the Republic, now the Galactic Empire, having control of Mandalore. The Night of 1,000 Tears, mentioned by Moff Gideon in The Mandalorian, is part of the Siege of Mandalore. Interestingly, Maul has rebuilt his double-sided lightsaber using Asajj Ventress's new lightsaber from the planned Season 6 Dark Disciple. Exactly how Maul came to find her saber is unknown, but he has bled her yellow lightsaber crystal red. Let's hope this rebuilt saber is a solid unit. As seen in the trailer, the animation looks better than it ever has. One of the benefits of Disney Plus is a vastly increased budget compared to what Star Wars Rebels received. It didn't have the same production value as the Clone Wars in any regard. Additionally, Rebels was slightly hamstrung in the level of violence that could be shown due to it being shown on Disney XD. This won't be a problem for this season or any of the rumored future animated shows on Disney Plus, as the service allows anything up to and including PG-13. So this and future shows can get back to the good old Clone Wars days of beheadings, torture, and general mayhem. Not that that's what inherently makes something good or bad, but it certainly adds gravitas to the idea of real consequences, and thus makes you care about what happens to the characters. Another element of this I'm really looking forward to. One of the things that I noticed early on in Rebels was the lack of camera movement. In the Clone Wars animated series, the camera moved freely throughout the frames, so everything was rendered. In Rebels, everything is kind of locked in position, meaning that everything wasn't rendered. Once again, probably the appropriate, responsible budgetary choice, but not necessarily the most dynamic to watch. I am super happy and excited to see this level of quality, at least from what we're seeing in the trailers, if it's any indicative sign of what we're getting in the show, which we would agree it probably has to be. This is one of those key story points that could be a big deal in this universe overall, and like I said at the opening of this thing, I couldn't be more excited. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Till next time, take care.